Hi guys, happy Sunday. I hope you all had a great day. Hope you all had a great weekend. If you are not new, welcome back. If you are new, welcome to the channel, welcome to the party. Let's have some fun. Today, I wanted to chat about a series that I don't hear a lot of discussion over. I don't see it getting a lot of attention, and in my opinion, I think it's severely underrated compared to the rest of the Spider-Man shows. And I am of course talking about Spider-Man, the new animated series. It was an MTV show. It had one season, unfortunately, and it made a hell of an impact with that one season. I think although the CG is a bit outdated, I embrace it because the storytelling is on point and the characters are on point. Through the lens of this show, you get to see these characters in a new light that you don't really see today, and I can appreciate that for sure. One thing I really enjoy about the show is that we get to see Peter really come into his adulthood and take on these new responsibilities and these new relationships and new perspectives while, juggling being Spider-Man. I appreciate that because it's so rare today to see Spider-Man not as a high schooler. For me, I'm tired of seeing him as a high schooler all the time. The latest that we've seen him as an adult is the PS4 Spider-Man games. And even with the PS5 remastered, they made him look like Tom Holland. He looks like a boy. And it does not fit with the story that you are telling with this Spider-Man. He looks like he belongs in high school. I don't get it. I don't get it. Because not only are you alienating a large demographic who enjoys Spider-Man as an adult and want to see him as an adult, but you are cutting off a significant part of Spider-Man's growth. You are not allowing him to grow outside of a high schooler. He can't grow. And that's why I think it was strategic on Marvel's part to have Tom Holland's Spider-Man be snapped. So now we're in 2023 and he hasn't aged and he's still 17 years old. Disney is going to try and keep him as young as possible for as long as they can. I guarantee it. And while I get it to an extent, you want to pull in the teenagers, the families, I get it. However, it's weird that you think there aren't people out there who would want to see Spider-Man as an adult. The great thing about Spider-Man is he is relatable as a teen and as an adult. He is relatable through and through. That's one of his best qualities. And we're not being allowed to see him go into his adulthood. I don't understand that. I don't understand this need to keep him youthful. I look at Andrew Garfield and I'm like, there's no reason why you couldn't have had that set of movies take place in college. 'Cause Andrew Garfield does not look like a high school student. And Emma Stone does not look like a fucking high school student. None of those kids do. You could have easily had this take place in college and it would have had the same effect, if not a greater one, because we get to see Peter take on new responsibilities and examine his life through an adult lens. And that's why I appreciate the Sam Raimi movies, because yes, Peter starts out in high school in those movies, but we get a natural progression where he's now in university and things are changing for him. Perspectives are shifting. Sorry, that was my tangent. Something I felt concerning Spider-Man for a long time in terms of his portrayal in the media. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the show, because it's nice that we get to see Peter in an environment that's not high school, because he's a college freshman in the new animated series. Another thing I like is how mature it is. MTV was not playing. They were not playing, okay? They were like, look, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we are geared more towards adults. And they experimented. They made the show a lot darker and a lot more mature. And I think it worked. Now, I can understand why that would turn some people off, because Spider-Man, more so than not, is an optimistic character. However, he still has a lot of shit to deal with. He goes through a lot. In the comics, it gets dark. But he always holds his head up high. Always. And I can appreciate that this show decided to say, you know what, we're gonna be a bit more mature. We're gonna have a little more blood. We're gonna have a little more of the language and a little more of the sexual innuendos and stuff. And they go full throttle, and it works, in my opinion. So just know, if you want to watch this show, it is dark. It can be depressing at times, and sometimes it'll feel like there's no payoff. But it is what it is. And even the way it ends is not on a good note. And I can appreciate that, because it subverts expectations. However, it's also a double-edged sword, because the way that it ended really opened the grounds for season 2, and we never got a season 2 because it was canceled. But let's talk about the characters. I'm going to start with Harry Osborn this time around. I really enjoy Harry Osborn in this show. Now, for some context, this show exists between the first Spider-Man movie for the Sam Raimi films and the second Spider-Man movie. That's where this film exists. Which makes sense, because in the show, Harry's father is dead. He resents Spider-Man because he believes Spider-Man murdered his dad. Like, it's right after the events of Spider-Man 1, before the beginning of Spider-Man 2. And to me, Harry is much better developed in this show than the Sam Raimi trilogy. Because to me, in the Sam Raimi trilogy, Harry was put there to be Peter's best friend and then his opposition. That's it. And then also be a part of the love triangle. That's it. There's no in between. There's no in between. His only motivation in the Sam Raimi films is he hates Spider-Man. He wants to kill Spider-Man, or, take him down at all costs. And here, there's a little bit more to that. That's still there, right? He does not like Spider-Man in this show. However, I'm glad in the show we get to see how Harry adapts to becoming a part of Oscorp and being a leading head in the company, and looking at his father and seeing how he's going to live up to that legacy. I like that we get to see that. And then also we get to see how he doesn't really agree with his father on some of the things that he practiced in the company, because in one of the episodes he finds out that Oscorp was doing shady shit in the background, and he was like, I can't support this. I can't be a part of this. So it's just nice that he gets more development than being a playboy and being Spider-Man's biggest hater. I very much enjoyed that. Mary Jane Watson. She was cool. She didn't leave like a super lasting impression on me. Her relationship with Peter was definitely like on and off. It was like a will they, won't they. And at one point they dated, and then it just fizzled because she wanted him to open up and he just wasn't willing to do that because Spider-Man. But she wasn't annoying. I didn't feel like she was unnecessary. I thought she was a needed addition to the show. And of course, I like how her and Spider-Man interact with one another. So let's talk about Indy. Indy was created just for the show, and she was Peter's second love interest, and I loved him with Indy. I think they fit together like a glove. He seems a lot more... Peter always seemed more comfortable around Indy. It felt like he was more himself. He was relaxed. And And she was a great addition to the show. She provided that inside report as like a reporter. Like, all of that was great. What happens to her character is tragic, though. It is really tragic. And if I wish we would have gotten a season 2, because I would have loved to see what would have happened with her character, considering the events of the last 2 episodes. So, Peter Parker / Spider-Man. I absolutely adore him in the show. I love Neil Patrick Harris's voice work. Fit him to a T, in my opinion. I like the Spider-Man suit. It's like a mix between the Raimi film and like something else. But I really like the suit, and most importantly, I like how he emotes in his mask. I just, that's my favorite part of like any Spider-Man suit, is how he emotes with the mask. It's adorable to me. But beyond that, we have our classic Spider-Man. He's kicking ass. He is outsmarting the bad guys. He's got the quips to match. Like, all of that is there. And then Peter, in contrast, very much not as confident as he is as Spider-Man. Very much could have been a full-on recluse if not for Harry and MJ. But he was laid back. He was focused on his studies and being Spider-Man. And I enjoyed that aspect of Peter Parker. But I really liked his relationship with, I guess, himself as Spider-Man, and how he really challenged whether or not he should even be Spider-Man. For him, he's probably thinking like, well, no matter what I do, no one is ever going to see the good in me. My best friend doesn't see it for me, my boss doesn't see it for me, and the police don't see it for me. And then look what I leave behind in my wake. Should I even do this? It's an interesting dynamic that we get to see explored a little bit. And I wish we would have been able to see more, but the show was canceled and we never got a season 2. So I really like that. And I like how, as Spider-Man, he works his hardest to see the good in every villain and try to get them to do right by themselves. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. They either die or almost die or just resent Spider-Man for the rest of his life. So it's like, okay. The villains, some of the real standouts of the show. I enjoy that each villain, whether they're well known or not, they leave an impression on Spider-Man after every battle. He learns something from them every time. And I think that's great. My favorite villain would probably be Shikata, and then it would be Talon, Electro, Kraven, and the Lizard. Ooh, the Lizard. He is the scariest out of all of them. He is scary as fuck. He's like on the same level as Andrew Garfield's the Lizard in that movie. Ooh. And again, because the show is more mature and it's a lot darker, they're not afraid to really push that line and have these villains do some heinous shit. Like the Lizard, okay, Electro pretty much almost electrocutes his professor to death, and then almost electrocutes his bully to death. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I really enjoy it. They make the episode for me more times than not. The stories. I love the stories that they tackle in the new animated series. They're so vast and different, but they resonate with me. And that, like, for me, that's the most important part, is that it resonates with me and it makes me think. That is my favorite aspect of the show, is that it really makes you stop and think, whether it be about Spider-Man and who he is, or the villains and how they came to be. Like, they go from talking about one's honor and dignity to their, your self-worth and identity, to bullying, to, something as big as you feeling empty because you don't bring anything to the table. Like, for example, the episode that they had where it showcased the dynamic between Peter and his intellect versus Flash and his artificial intellect. That was really amazing to see. That was extremely interesting, especially because it focused on Flash, who in mainstream media is always the bully and nothing more. It's one-dimensional with Flash always. And in this show, we got to see something different. We got to see a little bit of a layer with Flash, and it's probably the most development that he's ever had. Maybe outside of Spectacular Spider-Man. This is like the best. And they even talk about like socioeconomic status and how that works into a person and their motivations. That's in the first episode. So it's topics like that that make this show stand out for me. And without getting into spoilers, the stories really know how to just pull you in and keep you there from beginning to end, in my opinion. Overall, this is a show I really think you should check out. Maybe do one episode, see if it's your thing, and if it is, keep going. Let me know how it is. Like, I just really think that it's an experimental take on Spider-Man, but it's good. It's different, but it's good. But that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I will catch you guys next weekend. Bye.